Thanks so much for tuning in to our new series of content, Muscle, Carlton Leach's life story told by yours truly. Each and every week, just for you, the Criminal Connection podcast crew. Now make sure you like, make sure you subscribe because it's free, and make sure you drop us a comment below and we will see you on the other side. Chapter 1, Roid Rage. The first thing that caught Carlton's eye was that the geezer had a gold tooth. The second was that he was holding a shooter. And the third, that he was pointing it at him. Carlton's door work and body work had taken him deep into gangland, into the dangerous world of blaggers and drug dealers, turf wars and terminations. And now, someone was coming to terminate him. With violence all around him for the last 20 years and his battle scars evident for all to see, Carlton was now facing the possibility of an early epitaph on his tombstone. Strangely enough, at that moment in time, as dawn slowly lit up London and he stood facing the gunman beside the River Thames at Battersea, Carlton didn't particularly care. He was fueled up on steroids and speed, a 17-stone man mountain, and he was feeling no pain. The drugs had made him feel invincible. The geezer with a 45 was not a threat. He was a challenge. Carlton found himself shouting at him, "Come on in, you c***s, shoot me." His safety mechanism had snapped. That little man in his head who comes along when he's in deep shit and says, "Don't do it, don't be silly now, Carlton," had taken a fucking hike. There was just this lunatic standing there, full of bravado, full of drugs, caution to the wind, saying, "Come on then, kill me." The black geezer was getting closer. His eyes were wide and glazed. His face had this sort of twisted smile on it. The gun hand was unsteady. He was obviously out of it, yeah? Probably. The smile wasn't because he was pleased to see him either. They clashed earlier in the evening and he was back for revenge. Carlton and Big Chris and a few other lumps were doing the door at a special boat party, members only, which had been laid on by some of the old rave crowd. These two black guys had turned up and walked up the gangplank towards the boat. Carlton told them in pretty clear terms it was invitation only. He could see some of the girls at the party looked a little bit scared. These two blokes had given him a little bit of trouble earlier on. Carlton tried to be diplomatic. "Look, mate, it's membership only and they have full capacity on board." The biggest one of them muttered something like, "I'm so-and-so. I go where I want." And Carlton was like, "I don't give a fuck who you are. You're not welcome here." A fight kicks off and Carlton ended up grabbing him by the throat, pulled out a knife and said, "Look, mate, they don't want any fucking grief. You've caused the fucking problem. If you don't fuck off, I'm going to drag you behind that fucking tree over there and cut your fucking throat. How do you want it?" All the boys were on fucking steroids those days and were all pumped up and growling at everybody like fucking wild animals. Not a pretty sight. So off the black guys went, muttering dire threats that they'd be back later on to kill them all. They'd been trying to get on the fucking boat parties for a couple of weeks, but always kept getting turned away. One was a well-known dealer and a heavy cocaine user. These were dangerous people and not to be underestimated. Carlton thought that they got the message from the assembled heavies blocking their path and wouldn't give them any more hassle. How wrong can you be? Half an hour later, they were back. By now, Carlton knew the main man was called Mr. L. He discovered he had a track record for violence and brutality and headed one of the biggest drug networks in South London. He was back for vengeance. He stood there for a few seconds smiling at him. Then he unzipped his leather jacket. Before he could pull out a weapon, they were on him. Bang, 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 bang. He's on the floor. Carlton said, "We fucking warned you. We know who you are and we know how bad you are. So if you come back here again, we're going to fucking kill you." With that, Carlton cut him across the face. A fucking great slash down his cheek. He pushed and pushed. It was 7 a.m. Carlton's worked 2 different clubs that night and Carlton was at his fucking limit, yeah? It had to be settled here and now. As he cut him, Carlton said, "Right, that's your final fucking warning. Now fuck off and keep out of my way or you'll be fucking dead." The combination of tiredness, drugs, and raging anger saw Carlton talking like a fucking psychopath. But he really needed this off his pitch, yeah? Carlton hoped he got the message. Again, he'd read it wrong. The sun was finding its way through a heavy cloud over London at the start of a new day. Already marred by aggravation, Carlton agreed to do the door at the boat party till 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and they were starting to relax. He was sitting on the Thames wall talking. A couple of his boys were sitting in his brand new BMW 535 over the road, having a snort off the back of his A to Z road map, when a car pulled up in the street about 100 yards away. Carlton sees some black bloke wearing a baseball cap with a big sticky plaster slapped across his face, almost comical, as though it was something out of a cartoon. Andy said, "Carlton, that's that fucking black geezer from earlier." Carlton was like, "Nah, it's not. Can't be." It was. And he was looking for trouble big time now. He storms up the slope towards them, then he pulls out the shooter. The boys all started moving and running for cover. As he got nearer, Carlton could see he was still out of it. He was laughing like he was really enjoying the situation. He was getting nearer, the 45 looking bigger and bigger with each stride. His gold tooth was gleaming. To this day, Carlton doesn't know what made him do it, but the brave pills kicked in and Carlton was fronting him and saying, "Come on in, you c***s. Shoot me." Whether this was sheer stupidity or the ultimate test of his fearlessness, Carlton doesn't know. He'd done a lot of things to test his arsehole, but this was pushing it now. That little devil was in his ear saying, "Do it, do it." Now there's about 15 yards between them. "If you want me, you'll have to kill me," Carlton taunted him. His sense of self-preservation was gone. Carlton pulls out a knife and shouts, "Come on in. You want some of this?" He's not sure those were the words he really wanted to come out, but the devil was in charge. Carlton was actually frightened inside. You know, he knew he could die right here, right now. But the wrong words kept coming. "Go on in, you cunt. Kill me." He actually wanted the other words in his head. "Carlton, get the fuck out of here," to prevail. But they didn't come. There was a standoff for a few seconds. It seemed like hours. The gun was waving around a bit in his hand like it was too heavy for him to control, but it was still pointed his way. Then he took a shot at Carlton. Bang! And everyone's running around screaming, "Ah!" The bullet whizzed past his left ear and thudded into the fucking wall behind him. Carlton thought, "Fuck, he's really going to kill me." He knew he had to fucking kill him first. The power of the steroids and the coke and the speed made him feel strong again. Carlton could walk through a wall. Then suddenly, he wasn't frightened anymore. He was bouncing a bit by now. He yelled, "Come on then!" The guy fires another shot. Bang! That went past the other ear. He was running towards him, and the next shot might not miss. Carlton looked for some cover behind a tree. Bang! He took another shot. Then he clocks Carlton's car with two of the doormen in it. He didn't know it was Carlton's car, but decided to shoot it up anyway. He fired one through the roof and it hit the A to Z with a coke on it. It missed Paul by an inch. Rather than waste a gear, Paul quickly closed the book around West Kensington and trapped the powder in it. The gunman puts another couple of the shots into the car. Bang, bang. And Carlton was working out how many bullets the gunman had left. He knew it could only be a few. Was it a 9mm clip with half a dozen or so bullets, or was it a more modern gun with up to 13 shots? A gamble now could be fatal. If Carlton miscalculated by one single shot, he could easily become yet another statistic in the underworld's Hall of Infamy. Now, Big Chris was starting to move in on the gunman around the other side. The guns being waved around in all directions. There was no telling where the next shot might go. And if Mr. L was looking for a big target, ex-Marine Chris could easily be it. 6'4" and 20 stone of well-toned muscle. Chris was working as a fireman at the time and moonlighting as a bouncer. So he definitely didn't need any fucking hassle that might get him sacked by the fire brigade. As Carlton was thinking he should just get the fuck out of it, they were tussling at close range. Then another bang and a wisp of smoke. Chris's bomber jacket puffed out from the blast. Carlton thought, shit, he's been hit. He slumped to the floor. This could be really fucking bad news. This nut has fucking wounded him, or worse, killed him stone dead. Carlton was working his way towards him from a cover of the trees, and he was thinking, I've got to get to him. I've got to help him. And a couple of others were ready to fucking charge in. Then they realised Chris was playing possum, pretending he was wounded. As the gunman turned away, Chris lurched up off the ground and grabbed his arm. The shot had ruffled his coat, ripped through his baggies, and just grazed his leg, but hadn't caused any serious injury. Relief all around for a few seconds. Carlton ran directly at them and dived over the car bonnet. Him and Chris wrestled this fella to the ground. Someone emptied the clip from a gun. Then they dragged Mr. L down an alleyway nearby, and he knew that revenge was coming. Mr. L received a savage beating, more than 20 stab wounds, and was as close to death as it's possible to be while still breathing. In fact, the guys thought he was dead. Carlton could hear the sound of police sirens and a Scotland Yard helicopter. They quickly grabbed all their tools that had been used, knives, coshes, knuckle dusters, and threw them into the Thames. The tide was already out, so they saw them sink into the mud, hopefully hidden forever from the yard's finest. They went onto the boat and cleaned themselves up as the police arrived in force with machine guns and flak jackets. Then they had to get Chris off the plot because of his job. They also had to get Paul away because he was on curfew and shouldn't have been there. Carlton couldn't leave anyway because his car was so badly shot up. So Carlton said, look guys, I'll stay behind one of the other doormen and talk to the old Bill. He was only going to tell them as much as they needed to know. Carlton had about $2,000 in door takings in his shot up motor and needed to get that out the way. The police come over and said, is this your car? Carlton said, yes. And he saw the A to Z book on the back seat with some Charlie still in it. And there's a big fucker with a machine gun standing right beside him. So without really thinking, Carlton quickly picked the book up and snorted to give up his nostrils before the cops had a chance to tweak what was happening. I mean, that was all he fucking needed. The old Bill finding a load of Class A's in his motor on top of all the fucking bullet holes and the shooting and the wounding. Carlton walked back up the gangplank, a little bit unsteady, and went aboard for 10 minutes to get his head together and get their story straight for Mr. Plod. Nobody had seen much anyway because they'd all been hiding, but Carlton told them it was a plain case of self-defense because the bloke had been trying to murder him. He told the cops the gunman had got stabbed by someone 100 yards away and was now on his way to hospital. They searched the air and found the gun and the used cartridges. They confiscated his car for forensic testing and Carlton was taken to the police station for questioning. Then they came to him and said, look lads, they know you got something to do with his stabbing because you got specks of blood all over you. They said they knew who Mr. L was, a mainstream dealer, one of the top boys in London, and they knew there had been a row and he'd come back with a gun to kill them. It was pretty obviously self-defense. Carlton at this stage thought Mr. L had died. He'd last seen him lying motionless in a river of blood 10 foot long. He didn't think anybody could survive a beating like that. I mean, he'd been stabbed up the arse, through his back, his arms, half his stomach was hanging out, and he'd been beaten to a pulp with knuckle dusters and baseball bats. This was underworld retribution at its most savage. Carl didn't seek to justify it. It happens in the jungle that is London's underworld, and that was the world Carlton was in. He'd come to kill Carlton, they tried to kill him. Rough justice, that's the way it was. Who the cops wanted to know could have inflicted such injuries, even on a scumbag crack dealer who probably deserved it. They didn't know, did they? They said they were too busy hiding behind trees and in bushes and ducking and diving to escape injury and only got near to the geezer to disarm him. They didn't see anyone knocking the shit out of him. It must have been another little firm who got the hump. The senior officer had clearly guessed the truth and said, look lads, it was obviously self-defense. We're on your side. Just make a statement and we can get it all tidied up. Carlton and all these guys said, oh no, officer, all we know is that some black geezers came and started shooting up the place and we all hid. He obviously didn't believe them, but would never get the evidence for an attempted murder charge. As they were about to leave, another cop sidled up and said, if I were you, mate, I'll get rid of all your clothes when you get home. They know this geezer. They know what he's been doing. They seem to be saying that if Mr. L did die, it would be no great loss to anyone and might actually save a few of the lives to the addicts that he was supplying. Tony Tucker and Carlton were good mates, and Tony drove all the way from Southend to pick him up from the police station. Carlton had phoned Denny, his girlfriend at the time, on his mobile after the stabbing and basically told her to ring the solicitors and warn them that he might be in trouble. Carlton actually thought he was looking at a murder charge. Denny had phoned Tony and he was straight in his motor to collect him. That's how good a mate he was. He just dropped everything to help him. The stabbing victim had 5 blood transfusions, dozens of stitches, and spent 2 weeks in intensive care under a 24-hour armed guard. He was eventually charged with firearms offences and sent up to the Old Bailey for a trial. They wanted Carlton to be one of the prosecution witnesses. He wasn't too happy about that. They all had a meeting in the pub the Sunday before the trial, and Carlton literally said to the boys, "I'm not going." "What?" "You'll be in deep shit," they said. Carlton didn't care. He told them he wasn't going to court. He said it's not the dumb thing in our world. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. He didn't think any of them should go to court. So what Carlton did was decided to bolt up at a secret address out of London while the police were trying to serve a witness summons on him at his home address. Then Carlton heard what Mr. L's defence was going to be in court. Carlton and Mr. L had a fight at the club door and he'd beaten the fuck out of him. Carlton had pulled out a knife and stabbed him and then pulled out a gun and shot up his own car and the boat. Like you would. I mean, it was fucking ludicrous. Carlton actually thought the geezer was going to play it straight and just keep his fucking mouth shut. But instead, he was going to slag him off. On the third day of the trial, the cops went to Carlton's mum and dad's address and left a message saying that if he didn't turn up at the Old Bailey by 3 p.m. that afternoon, they would issue a warrant for his arrest and charge him with the gun offences and the attempted murder of Mr. L. Carlton then thought that he had to go. It wasn't worth the risk of being done with all that fucking serious stuff just for not giving evidence. So Carlton was up there at the Old Bailey and they were asking him if he hadn't previously turned up because he was being threatened. Carlton said, "No, you just don't do that sort of thing. We have our code that we live by." Carlton was now the chief prosecution witness and set for some tough questioning. The defence barrister had apparently applied to drag his violent past out to discredit him, but it hadn't been allowed. So to get round it, his first question was, "Have you ever appeared on television, Mr. Leach?" He'd obviously seen the Hooligans documentary that Carlton had starred in and wanted him to say he'd taken part in it as a self-confessed football hooligan and thug. Carlton replied, "Yes, I've been on the telly, but a stand broke and I fell off." The judge was not amused and he bollocked him for being so flippant. The barrister could see he was getting nowhere, so he switched to the night of the gun attack. "You say in your statement, Mr. Leach, that all you could see coming towards you was a black man with a gold tooth." Carlton replied with, "Well, most black men have got a gold tooth." Mr. L turned to the jury and gave them a big, wide, beaming smile and said, "Members of the jury, you will notice that I haven't." Carlton said, "Well, me, you're the first black bloke I've seen without a gold tooth." Everyone started laughing in the court and Carlton got pulled up once again by the judge. The barrister then suggested that he and Mr. L had been fighting and he'd been beating him. Carlton said, "Look, mate, no one would have got that close because if anyone gets within a couple of inches of me, I'd fucking headbutt him." Mr. L had claimed that Carlton had pulled the gun out of his car and started to shoot up. "Oh, fucking hell. Yes, you're right," Carlton said. "Then I pulled out another gun and John Wayne was there and we just rode past shooting everyone going, yeah, yeah, yeah." That brought him bollocking number 3 from the judge. The jury all thought Carlton was a right lunatic. The police were getting the fucking real hump with him. The defence barrister then said to Carlton, "Is my client the man who shot you?" Carlton said, "No, he's not." He looked startled. "What? What are you saying?" Carlton said, "How can I tell whether it's him? It was 7 o'clock in the morning. It was still really dark. I was dog tired. All black men looked the same to me. All I could see was a pair of white eyes and a gold tooth." The geezer in the dock looked at him in sheer disbelief and suddenly his barrister was lost for words. "Nah, that's definitely not him. It's a case of mistaken identity," Carlton added to rub salt into the wound. Not surprisingly, Carlton was dismissed from giving any further evidence. As Carlton walked out of the court, Mr. L gave him a half nod. Then the old Bill started giving him a right verbal monstering, and the court refused to pay him any expenses for the day. Mr. L had come back from the dead, and now he's walked out on a string of serious charges. Is kind of justice. Carlton bumped into him 2 years later after he'd been back to Manchester to some heavy-duty friends in the drug game and had returned to London and started hitting the clubs. Everyone was knocking him back out of respect for him. So Carlton said, "No, let him in." Carlton thought that all the time he knew where he was, Carlton was safe from a revenge attack. If Carlton didn't know, he could have hit him any time, any place, anywhere, out of the blue. Then one night, Carlton bumped into him at the Aquarium Club in Old Street. He limped over, a lasting result of his stabbing injuries, and Carlton said, "Right, how do you want to do it? Do you want to finish it here and now? If you do, I will kill you stone dead. You can end this feud now, call it a day, or one of us is going to die." To his surprise, he said, No, Carlton, I want to buy you a drink. If it wasn't for you, I'd be doing 10 years. He said his barrister had told him after trial, Carlton Leach has saved your bacon. You owe him. So Carlton accepted the truce. There was no point in prolonging that particular war, and Carlton now knew he wouldn't need to keep looking over his shoulder for a bullet coming his way. So Carlton and the bloke he nearly killed, who they'd beaten to within an inch of his life, stood shoulder to shoulder, down in large vodkas like old mates. And Carlton felt better about it. There was their code. They'd settle things their way. Honour intact on both sides. Then suddenly, a fight kicks off in the club. People were yelling and the knives were coming out. That was his kind of action, and he waded in. To his surprise, Mr. L joined him at his side. From the best of enemies, they were now fighting side by side. Backs to the wall, looking after each other's interests. Carlton got cut trying to stop two black geezers killing each other. He stepped in the middle of them and got slashed across the arm. Now they were real blood brothers. He looked across at him and said, "Fucking hell, mate, you don't half attract trouble." This was true. Whether Carlton really attracted trouble or not, it attracted him. Carlton was not sure either way. There was no avoiding it. Carlton was out with two of his boys, Gaffer and Fearless, and they'd been legends in the West End, and then on to the EC1 club when they ran into a team known as the Rat Boys. Carlton was suited and booted and been having a social evening out, chatting to a few doorman mates. So Carlton wasn't really looking for any bother, you know. He was ready to turn his back when trouble flared. But Gaffer jumped in and made himself double busy like he usually did. Carlton shouted at him, "Get back here, they've got fucking good doormen of their own. Stay out of it, they're not having a go at them, so keep your fucking nose out of it." But the atmosphere had gotten nasty. Several people had come over and asked if they could stand by him because they were frightened. Although Carlton was in the muscle game, he'd always had an ability to keep calm and make people feel safe. Between 20 and 30 people were standing next to him. Next thing, 2 shots rang out. One bloke had been hit. The Rat Boys had gone away and had got tooled up and come back with guns. When they come back to look to sort out the geezers they'd had the fucking Barney with. Carlton thought, no, not again. Mr. L had been right. Carlton did seem to attract trouble. Another bloke had got shot. People were screaming. The police sirens were heading their way. This time, he stood there, cool as a cucumber, and said to Gaffer and Fearless, "Okay, boys, time to go home. We're in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is not our fight." With that, they calmly walked out through the door and left the fracas in their wake. This time, Captain Sensible was talking in Carlton's ear, and they drove off and had a lovely Chinese meal with no risk to any more of his 9 lives. Gaffer said, "How can you be so cool?" Carlton told him it was instinct, a front, in which I get this persona that comes over me, so I could be in control in dangerous situations. Well, most of the time, anyway. People respect you for it, but Carlton knew it was for his own survival as much as anything. He had too many friends die in the last couple of years, and it had taught him some important lessons. His good pal, who was called Black Francis, had got shot outside the Frog and Nightgown in the Old Kent Road. Big Ron had been shot on his doorstep. Then Tony and the boys had been wiped out in the Rettendon murders. There'd been too much grief, even in his dangerous world. You know, Carlton had been with people in clubs and seen everybody getting edgy. It was like something really big was about to go off. Everyone seemed to be carrying a gun. It didn't frighten him, but Carlton knew someday someone was going to come looking for his scalp. Carlton was always a bit of a name around the muscle scene, and he was always going to be a target for some up-and-coming young bruiser who wanted to take him on because of who he was, not because of anything he'd done. And Carlton was becoming distrustful of his own friends. Things were going on for money behind his back. Carlton wasn't sure of the people around him anymore. He was becoming lonely in a crowd. He was feeling weak and thought now was the time to get out. But could he ever really escape? Carlton had been around the club scene for more than 10 years. He's witnessed a lot of villainy, a lot of violence, monstrous, shocking acts of brutality. He always carried a big knife and regarded it as one of the tools of the trade and never been afraid to use it.
Now guns were everywhere, not knives.
Thanks so much for tuning in to our new series of content, Muscle. Make sure you tune in next week and make sure you like and make sure you comment and make sure you subscribe, and we will see you on the other side.